The chamber fell silent, as High Commander Zekthor raised all four of his arms. The other species in the Galactic Council watched with careful eyes. Some looked nervous. Others seemed curious about what would happen next. We, the Vryn Concordat, formally declare the Treaty of Celestial Peace to be broken, Zekthor announced. His voice carried through the vast room. Humanity has grown weak. They have forgotten how to fight. Their military no longer exists. We will reclaim the territories that should have been ours. Ambassador G1 Park sat in the human section of the council. She did not stand. She did not shout. Instead, a small smile appeared on her face. Next to her, Ambassador Chen quietly made a note on his datapad. You find this amusing, human? Zekthor turned his large eyes toward G1. Your people signed that treaty because you were losing. You begged for peace. G1 finally stood. She smoothed her dark blue diplomatic uniform and walked calmly to the center platform. Every species watched her. They remembered the old stories. The human-Vryn war had been terrible. It lasted 30 years. Billions died on both sides. The fighting finally stopped when humans demonstrated something that terrified everyone. Commander Zekthor, G1 said with that same slight smile, I believe you need to review your history files. We did not beg. We offered. There is a difference. Your species has not built a warship in 3,000 years. Zekthor's voice grew louder. Your soldiers became farmers. Your generals became teachers. You are soft now. Comfortable. You have forgotten the taste of war. Have we? G1 asked. She tapped her communication device. Please connect me to Admiral Choi. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. Admiral Seo-jun Choi looked exactly like what the other species expected from a military leader who had nothing to do. He wore a casual jacket. He held a cup of tea. Behind him, people laughed and talked. It looked like a social gathering, not a military command center. Ambassador Park, Admiral Choi said with a warm smile. I was wondering when you would call. The Concordat finally made their move? They have declared war, G1 confirmed. The Admiral took a sip of his tea. How exciting. It has been a while since we had a proper game. Zekthor's skin changed color, showing his anger. You mock us. This is exactly why you will fall. You treat war like entertainment. Admiral Choi's smile grew wider. Commander Zekthor, let me ask you something. What have your people done for the last 3,500 years? We have trained, Zekthor said proudly. We have built ships. We have prepared for the day when we would correct the mistake of that treaty. And humans? The Admiral asked. What do you think we have been doing? Growing soft, Zekthor said immediately. Living in comfort. Forgetting discipline. Interesting. Admiral Choi put down his tea. Behind him, the background suddenly changed. The social gathering disappeared. In its place stood a massive military operations center. Thousands of personnel worked at stations. Holographic displays showed ship formations. Tactical maps covered entire walls. We never stopped training, Commander. Admiral Choi said. His voice changed. The casual warmth vanished. We simply changed how we train. Every human child grows up playing strategy games. Every teenager participates in tactical simulations. Every adult has access to the most advanced combat scenarios ever created. We have billions of people who spend their free time perfecting the art of war. Zekthor hesitated. Around the chamber, other species leaned forward. You see, we learned something during our last war, G1 added. Fighting makes you tired. It makes you bitter. Soldiers who only know war eventually want peace so badly, they forget how to fight. So we made a different choice. We made war part of our culture. Admiral Choi continued. But not the sad, destructive part. The strategic part. The intellectual challenge. The competitive spirit. For 3,500 years, Humanity has been running the largest military training program in galactic history, and we disguised it as entertainment. The hologram shifted again. It showed millions of people participating in massive strategy competitions, ships moving in perfect coordination, tactics being shared across networks, analysis being done by billions of minds working together. You wish to restart the game? G1 asked Zekthor. Very well. But understand something clearly. We never stopped playing. We just gave you 3,500 years to prepare because we thought you might eventually become interesting opponents. Zekthor's confidence wavered. He looked at the other members of the Concordat. They had expected fear from the humans. They had expected panic. Instead, they saw anticipation. This is a bluff, Zekthor said, but his voice carried less certainty. You cannot mobilize a military from games and simulations. Watch us, Admiral Choi said simply. Your fleets are moving toward the border colonies, correct? Our sensors detected your staging areas 3 months ago. You will arrive at New Sol Station in approximately 47 hours. We will be waiting. The hologram disappeared. G1 returned to her seat. Around the chamber, the other council members whispered urgently among themselves. The Talixian ambassador was already requesting an emergency session. The Corvan delegate looked terrified. Zekthor stood silent for a long moment. Then, he turned and walked out. The other Concordat members followed. They had made their choice. The war would begin. As the chamber emptied, Ambassador Chen leaned toward G1. Do you think they understand what they just started? G1 shook her head. Not yet. But they will. In about 47 hours, they will understand perfectly. Should we warn them again? We just did, G1 said. They chose not to listen. Now we show them what humanity has become. Not warriors who crave battle. Not soldiers who celebrate death. But strategists who turned war into the most sophisticated game ever played. And we have had 3,500 years to perfect our skills. She stood and gathered her materials. Inform Earth. The game is starting again. May it end quickly. The Vryn fleet arrived at New Sol Station exactly on schedule. 200 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. It was an impressive sight. The fleet had trained together for years. Each captain knew their role. Each ship moved with military precision. Commander Zekthor watched from his flagship. New Sol Station hung in space ahead. It looked peaceful. Civilian transport ships moved slowly around it. No military vessels appeared on sensors. No weapons charged. No shields activated. As expected, Zekthor said to his officers, they were not prepared. All ships, begin attack formation. The Vryn warships moved forward. Their weapons powered up. Targeting systems locked onto the station. In his mind, Zekthor already saw the victory. The station would fall within hours. Then the human colonies would understand fear again. Commander, his sensor officer said, I am detecting unusual readings from the civilian ships. Ignore them. Zekthor ordered. Focus on the station. Sir, the civilian ships are turning toward us. Zekthor looked at the tactical display. The transport ships had indeed changed position. But they were transport ships. Slow. Unarmed. Harmless. Then they opened fire. The transport ships transformed. Panels slid away, revealing weapons that should not exist on civilian vessels. Each ship released fighter craft that moved with impossible speed. Within seconds, the quiet space around New Sol Station became filled with coordinated human forces. Defensive formation, Zekthor shouted. His ships tried to respond. They had trained for this. They knew their procedures. But the human forces did not follow any procedure the Vryn recognized. Ships moved in patterns that made no tactical sense. Fighters attacked from angles that should have been impossible. Weapons fired with timing that seemed random but created devastating results. On Earth, In what looked like a huge sports arena, Commander Min Ji-yoon sat at a command station. Around her, dozens of other officers worked at similar stations, but above them, massive screens showed everything happening at New Seoul. And in the arena seats, 50,000 people watched. Red Wing, break left and draw their fire, Minji said calmly into her headset. Blue Squadron, that opens the gap we need. Execute Pattern 7, on my mark. In the seats, people cheered. They had seen Pattern 7 before. It was a classic move, first used in the Stellar Command Championships 12 years ago. A player named Raven had invented it. Now it was being used in a real battle. Mark, Minji said. The human fighters moved exactly as she commanded. They drew the Vrin ships into focusing their weapons on apparent targets. Then, the targets scattered. In the confusion, human destroyers came from different angles and struck at the Vrin fleet's weakest points. Beautiful execution, someone said behind Minji. She glanced back and smiled. It was Admiral Choi. Thank you, sir. They are moving exactly like the Level 7 AI in Infinite Warfare. Same formation patterns. Same response timing. So, you know what they will do next? Of course. Minji made several quick commands on her interface. They will try to create a defensive sphere. It is what the AI always does when Pattern 7 succeeds. So we will use the counter strategy that players discovered in the game. She was right. The Vrin ships pulled closer together, forming a protective formation. It looked strong. All their weapons could support each other. Any attack from outside would face combined fire from multiple ships. Minji smiled and gave a new command. Launch the drones. Thousands of small drones, each no bigger than a person, shot out from the human ships. They moved toward the Vrin sphere formation. The Vrin opened fire, destroying hundreds of drones, but there were too many. And they were not weapons. They were sensor disruptors. The drones attached themselves to Vrin ships and began broadcasting interference. Suddenly, the careful coordination of the Vrin formation broke down. Ships could not communicate properly. Sensors showed false readings. Targeting systems struggled to identify real threats. Now, Minji said, all forces, free attack pattern. Show them what we learned from 3,500 years of practice. What happened next would be analyzed by military historians for centuries. Each human ship captain, each fighter pilot, each weapon operator, had trained in simulations their entire lives. They had competed against millions of other players. They had studied thousands of tactical scenarios. They had learned to adapt, to innovate, to treat each battle like a puzzle with multiple solutions. The Vrin had trained for war. Humans had turned war into an art form. Ships moved in ways that should not work, but did. Attacks came from unexpected directions. Tactics changed every few seconds, never giving the Vrin time to adapt. And through it all, the human forces seemed to be almost playing with their opponents. Red 7. I bet you cannot hit that cruiser's engine from this angle, one pilot said, over the communication channel. Watch me. Another responded. The arena crowd roared when the shot landed perfectly. Zekthor watched his tactical display in growing horror. In 30 minutes of fighting, he had lost 50 ships. The humans had lost 3 fighters. 3. Retreat, he ordered. All ships, withdraw to Rally Point Beta. The Vrin fleet turned and fled. The human forces let them go. They could have pursued. They could have destroyed the entire fleet. But they did not. Why did we let them escape? One of Minji's officers asked. Minji smiled. Because this was just the first level. If we destroy them too quickly, they will not understand. They need to see what they are really fighting. They need to realize that every human in this galaxy has been training for this moment their entire lives. Admiral Choi nodded in approval. Contact all defense sectors. Share the battle data. I want every commander to study their patterns. When they attack again, we will be even more prepared. Will they attack again? the officer asked. They will, the admiral said. They are proud. They will think this was luck or a surprise. They will gather their forces and try again. And each time, we will show them something new. Each time, they will face humans who have spent their whole lives perfecting strategy, not because they had to, because they wanted to. Across human space, billions of people had watched the battle. In homes, in gathering places, in schools, they had seen what their civilization could do when challenged. Some cheered. Some analyzed the tactics quietly. Children asked their parents to explain certain maneuvers. On Earth, a teenage girl turned to her father. The Vrin commander made a mistake when he formed the defensive sphere. He left a weakness on the lower axis. Her father nodded. You are correct. What would you have done differently? Pattern 12, from the Galactic Strategy Tournament, she said immediately. It is designed exactly for breaking sphere formations. This was humanity now. Every person, a potential strategist. Every citizen trained from childhood in the art of tactical thinking. Not soldiers, not warriors, but minds sharpened by 3,500 years of turning war into the most complex, engaging, challenging game ever created. And the game had just begun. 3 days after the defeat at New Sol, the Vrin Concordat gathered every available warship. 7 species contributed vessels. Their combined fleet numbered over 800 ships. It was the largest military force assembled in 3,000 years. Zekthor stood before the fleet commanders in a secured communication channel. We underestimated them once. We will not make that mistake again. This time, we attack with our full strength. This time, we follow strict military doctrine. No creativity from them will save them from pure, overwhelming force. The commanders agreed. They made their plans. They chose their targets carefully. 3 human colony worlds would be attacked simultaneously. The humans would have to divide their forces. The Concordat would have numbers on their side. What Zekthor did not know was that 12 billion humans were watching him make these plans. On Earth, in the Central Strategy Network building, Ambassador G1 Park stood with Admiral Choi. Between them floated a holographic display showing the Vrin fleet positions. They believe their communications are secure, G1 observed. They are using military encryption from 3,000 years ago, Admiral Choi replied. We broke that code 2 days after the last war ended. Every message they send, we receive. Should we tell them? No. Let them learn by experience. Around the galaxy, humans watched on their personal screens. The battle footage from New Sol had become the most viewed content in human history. Now, people gathered to watch the next phase. In their homes, at work, in public spaces, they followed the Concordat fleet movements. And many of them contributed suggestions to the military network. The Human Defense Strategy Network was something unique to humanity. Any citizen could access it. Anyone could watch the battle data. Anyone could offer tactical suggestions. Reasonteen Eddy 5. ADC. Reasonteen Eddy. Where you a? Advanced artificial intelligence sorted through billions of suggestions every second, identifying the most promising ideas. The best suggestions went directly to field commanders. It was democracy applied to warfare. Billions of minds working together, competing to find the best solutions. And it worked better than any military command structure ever created. Sir, Commander Minji Yoon said, as she studied her displays, we have over 400 million tactical suggestions already. The AI is sorting them now. Any good ones? Admiral Choi asked. 17,000 are rated as viable. 200 are rated as brilliant. Minji highlighted several on her screen. This one is interesting. A 16-year-old from Mars colony suggests we pretend to evacuate the colonies and draw them into what looks like easy victories. And then, we turn every civilian structure into a trap. Every building becomes a weapons platform. Every park becomes a sensor array. Every vehicle becomes a drone controller. Minji smiled. The kid provides complete technical specifications. She even worked out the power requirements and material costs. Admiral Choi laughed. What is her name? Hana Kim. She is ranked 3rd in the Youth Division of Stellar Command. Send her a commendation. And put her strategy into the planning database. If we need it, we will use it. This was the reality that Zekthor could not understand. In the Concordat, military strategy belonged to trained officers and commanders. In human civilization, strategy belonged to everyone. Children learned it in school. Teenagers competed in tournaments. Adults refined it as a hobby. The best minds rose naturally, regardless of age or background. The Concordat fleet arrived at the 3 target colonies. Just as Zekthor planned, they split their forces. Each group had enough ships to overwhelm any defense. They moved in, with confidence. Then something unexpected happened. The colonies broadcast a message. Not a plea for mercy. Not a desperate call for help. Instead, they broadcast a live video stream showing the upcoming battle, complete with commentary. Welcome to Colonial Defense Network, your real-time coverage of today's engagement, a cheerful human voice announced. I am your host, Park Jin-woo. And with me is military analyst Commander retired Lee Sung-min. Commander, what can we expect today? Well, Jin-woo, the Concordat is using a classic 3-prong attack formation. It is effective against enemies who cannot communicate between battle zones. However, humans have instant communication across any distance, so we can coordinate all 3 defenses as if they were one battle. Fascinating. And I see the betting markets have already opened. Current odds favor a human victory at each colony, with less than 5% casualties. Zekthor could not believe what he was hearing. They were treating this like entertainment, like a sporting event. His rage grew. All ships, attack immediately. Show them this is not a game, but to humans, it was exactly a game. The most important game. The most serious game. But a game, nonetheless. The Concordat forces struck hard at the first colony, Providence. Their weapons tore through defensive satellites. Their ships moved in standard attack formations. They did everything according to military doctrine. The human defenders did not. Ships appeared from behind the colony's moon, moving in spiral patterns. Defense platforms that looked destroyed suddenly reactivated. Civilian stations launched fighter craft that outnumbered anything the Concordat expected. At the second colony, New Kyoto, the defenders tried something creative. They projected holographic copies of their ships, creating the illusion of a much larger force. The Concordat wasted ammunition shooting at images while real human ships struck from different angles. At the third colony, Terra Verde, the defenders used the young girl's suggestion. They appeared to evacuate in panic. The Concordat forces moved in, expecting easy occupation. Then every structure on the planet activated hidden weapons. The fleeing ships turned around and attacked. In 15 minutes, the Concordat lost over 60 vessels. Beautiful, the commentator Jinwoo shouted as he watched. That is exactly the trap strategy from last year's championship finals. Indeed, Commander Lee added. The Concordat forces are predictable because they follow doctrine. Human forces are unpredictable because we encourage creativity. Every battle is different. Every commander brings their own style. Around human space, people watched and cheered. They debated tactics. They offered new suggestions. They rated the performance of different commanders. Some criticized certain moves. Others praised unexpected innovations. It was a civilization-wide conversation about military strategy happening in real time. And the Concordat was losing badly. After 6 hours of fighting, Zekthor ordered another retreat. He had lost over 200 ships across the 3 battle zones. The humans had lost perhaps 20. The mathematics were impossible. His forces could not win through direct combat. They are not fighting seriously, one of his officers said. They are playing with us. No, Zekthor said quietly. They are fighting very seriously. They have just found a way to be serious while also enjoying the challenge. That is what we failed to understand. In the Galactic Council chambers, other species watched the battles with a mix of fascination and horror. The Talixian ambassador turned to her aide. How is this possible? The humans have not fought a war in thousands of years. They have fought thousands of wars, the aide corrected. Simulated wars, practice wars, competitive wars. They never stopped fighting. They just stopped killing. Until now. Ambassador G1 Park received a communication request from Zekthor. She accepted it. The Vryn commander appeared on her screen. He looked tired. You could destroy us completely, Zekthor said. Why do you hold back? Because we do not want to destroy you, G1 replied. We want you to understand. Humanity did not grow weak during our peace. We grew stronger. We found a way to maintain our skills without living in constant war. Every human child learned strategy. Every citizen participates in our defensive readiness. Not because we force them, because it is part of our culture now. I have made a terrible mistake, Zekthor admitted. Yes, G1 agreed. You restarted a war that never ended. You just were not invited to play. The Vryn Concordat held an emergency meeting. 3 of the 7 species wanted to withdraw immediately. They had seen enough. The humans were not just winning. They were demonstrating absolute superiority while making it look easy. We cannot surrender now, Zekthor argued. We have committed too much. If we stop, we look weak to the entire galaxy. We already look weak, the Corvan delegate said. The humans are making us look like children playing at war, while adults show us how it is really done. Then we must change our approach. Another commander suggested. We must attack something they truly value. Something they will defend. Seriously. They defend everything seriously, someone pointed out. That is the problem. But Zekthor had an idea. A terrible idea born from desperation. What if we strike at Earth itself? They will have to commit their full military strength. We will finally see their true capabilities. The other commanders hesitated. Attacking a homeworld crossed certain lines. But they had already broken the peace treaty. What was one more line? They agreed. Every remaining Concordat ship, over 400 vessels, would jump to the Sol system. They would strike at Earth directly. Either they would force humanity to show its full strength, or they would achieve a victory that might change the war's direction. On Earth, in the strategy center that looked like a game tournament venue, Admiral Choi received the intelligence report. He smiled. They are coming here, he announced to his staff. All of their remaining forces. Commander Min Ji-yoon looked up from her station. Should we evacuate the civilians? No need, Admiral Choi said. Do you remember the speedrun challenges from last year's Infinite Warfare Championship? 1. Minji's eyes lit up. The competitions to see who could defend Earth against impossible odds in the shortest time. Exactly. We have thousands of commanders who trained specifically for this scenario, and they have been competing to perfect their strategies. The Admiral accessed his command interface. Let us see if we can set a new record. Contact Fleet Commanders Tae Yang Han, Ji-hoon Ryu, and Seo Yun-oh. Tell them it is time to show what they practiced. Word spread across Earth and human colonies within minutes. The Concordat was attacking Earth. Instead of panic, there was excitement. This was the scenario that every strategy game featured. Defending the home world, it was the ultimate challenge. Betting markets opened immediately. People wagered on how long the defense would take. Some bet on which commander would get the most effective eliminations. Others bet on which tactics would prove most successful. It was treated like the championship game of everyone's favorite sport. Is anyone worried? A news reporter asked random citizens on the streets of Seoul. Worried? A middle-aged woman laughed. My daughter commands a destroyer group. She has been practicing this exact scenario since she was 12. The Concordat should be worried. With Cord, I am more curious than worried, a teacher said. I want to see if Commander Han will use his famous spiral defense pattern. He has perfected it in simulations. This is his chance to prove it works in reality. This attitude existed everywhere. Confidence without arrogance. Anticipation without fear. Humanity had spent 3,500 years preparing for exactly this moment. Not because they wanted war, but because they understood that the best way to prevent war was to be so overwhelmingly prepared that no one would dare start one. The Concordat clearly had not learned that lesson. When the Concordat fleet arrived at the Sol system, they found Earth waiting. But not with a desperate defensive fleet. Instead, Earth was surrounded by what looked like a celebration. Ships moved in decorative patterns. Stations displayed light shows. It looked like a festival. What is this? Zekthor demanded. Some kind of trick? Zekthor. No trick, a human voice responded on the open channel. This is Commander Taeyang Han speaking. Welcome to Sol System. You have been challenged to a speedrun defense scenario. Current record is 43 minutes from entry to complete neutralization. We are attempting to break that record. Please begin your attack whenever you are ready. Zekthor felt his confidence crack. They were treating this like a game competition. Earth itself was at stake. And they acted like this was entertainment. All ships, attack formation, he ordered. Show them we are serious. The Concordat fleet moved forward with everything they had. 400 warships against Earth's defenders. It should have been overwhelming. Then Earth revealed what it had been hiding. The decorative patterns were not decorations. They were precisely positioned ships in a formation that created overlapping fields of fire, covering every possible approach. The light shows were targeting lasers, calibrated and ready. The festival was a fighting stance, and the defense began. Commander Han's forces moved like a dance performance. Ships flowed around each other without ever colliding. Weapons fired in sequence. Each shot timed perfectly to create gaps in the Concordat formation. It was beautiful and deadly. Commander Ryu's group used a different approach. They created defensive walls of drones that absorbed enemy fire, while capital ships maneuvered behind them. It looked like a moving fortress, adapting to every Concordat attack. Commander O tried something completely new. Her ships moved in, seemingly random patterns, but the patterns were actually calculated chaos. The Concordat could not predict where any human ship would be from one moment to the next. It made targeting impossible. On Earth, in a stadium filled with 100,000 people, the battle played on enormous screens. Commentators provided real-time analysis. The crowd cheered every successful maneuver. They groaned when a human ship took damage. They celebrated when a particularly clever tactic worked. Look at that, the commentator shouted. Commander Han just executed Pattern 47. That is a competition-level move. Crossing. Quoting Masi Endis 17. And the timing is perfect. The analyst added. Every human ship is exactly where it needs to be. This is what 3,500 years of practice looks like. We, the Concordat forces, tried everything. They attempted mass charges. They tried splitting their fleet to attack from multiple angles. They focused fire on single targets. Nothing worked. The human defenders adapted to every tactic within seconds. They are reading us. A Concordat commander reported to Zekthor. Every move we make, they counter before we finish it. Every move we make, the Concordat commander. Every move we make, we can readily be. That is impossible. Zekthor said, but it was not impossible. It was the result of billions of humans analyzing the battle in real time. Every citizen watching was also participating. They saw patterns. They made suggestions. The best ideas went instantly to the commanders who implemented them immediately. It was humanity's greatest strength. Not individual brilliance, though they had that. Not superior technology, though they had that too. It was collective intelligence on a scale no other species had achieved. 27 minutes into the battle, the Concordat had lost half their ships. The human defenders had lost 4. 4 ships out of hundreds. Sir, Commander Han reported to Admiral Choi. We are ahead of record pace. If we maintain current performance, we will complete defense in 38 minutes. Excellent work, Admiral Choi replied. But remember, this is not just about speed. This is about sending a message to the galaxy. Show them what humanity can do when we must. Understood, sir. Switching to demonstration mode, the human forces changed their tactics. Instead of simply destroying Concordat ships efficiently, they began showing off. Ships performed impossible maneuvers. Weapons struck with precision that should not be possible. Entire enemy formations were dismantled in seconds through coordinated actions that looked choreographed. In the stadium, the crowd went wild. This was humanity at its finest. Not cruel, not brutal, but undeniably superior. Zekthor finally understood what he faced. This was not an enemy. This was a civilization that had turned warfare into art, into science, into culture. Every human was a strategist. Every citizen was a defender. And they had been perfecting their craft for millennia. Cease fire, he ordered. All ships, stand down. We surrender. The battle had lasted 34 minutes. New record, the commentator shouted. The stadium crowd erupted in celebration. Across human space, billions cheered, not because they had defeated an enemy, but because they had proven what they always knew. When humanity focused its collective intelligence, creativity, and determination on a goal, nothing could stand against them, and they had done it while having fun. The surrender ceremony took place on a human diplomatic station near Earth. Zekthor arrived with his remaining officers. They expected humiliation. They expected harsh terms. They expected humanity to take revenge for the attack. Instead, Ambassador G1 Park greeted them with courtesy and offered them tea. Please, sit, she said, gesturing to comfortable chairs. We have much to discuss. Zekthor sat carefully. Around the room, representatives from the other Concordat species waited nervously. Behind G1 stood Admiral Choi, calm and patient. You defeated us completely, Zekthor said. In 47 days, you destroyed our military capability, while barely suffering casualties yourselves. We expected this meeting to be about our punishment. Punishment? G1 looked genuinely confused. Why would we punish you? We broke the treaty. We attacked your people. We killed humans, even if not many. Yes, you did. G1 poured tea for everyone. And you learned an important lesson. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from mistakes. We do not wish to punish you for learning. One of the other Concordat species, a Talorn commander, spoke up. Then what do you want? Admiral Choi stepped forward. We want you to understand what happened. Not just that you lost, but why you lost. Do you understand the difference? Zekthor thought carefully. You maintained your military readiness through your culture. You turned strategy into entertainment. Every human practices warfare without actually fighting. Close, G1 said. But you are missing the most important part. We did not do this to prepare for war. We did this to prevent war. Do you know why no one has attacked humanity in 3,500 years? Because of your military strength, the Talorn answered. No, G1 corrected gently. Because everyone knew we maintained that strength. There was no mystery. No secret. We never hid what we were doing. Every species could watch our strategy competitions. Everyone could see our training. The entire galaxy knew that attacking humanity would be foolish. You chose to attack anyway, because you convinced yourselves we had grown soft. We were wrong, Zekthor admitted. You were wrong, Admiral Choi agreed. But not because we are better warriors. You were wrong because you misunderstood what peace means to humans. Peace does not mean forgetting how to fight. Peace means being so prepared to fight that no one wants to test you. G1 pulled up a holographic display showing the treaty terms. The Concordat representatives read them with growing surprise. These terms are very generous, the Talorn said. You are not taking our territory. You are not demanding huge payments. You are not limiting our military beyond reasonable defensive forces. The Talorn said. You are not Dea Beltig. These terms are very generous. The Talorn said. You are not limiting our military beyond reasonable defensive forces. Why would we? G1 asked. We do not want your territory. We have plenty. We do not need your resources. We have our own. We do not want you to be weak and helpless. That creates instability. Then what do you want? Zekthor asked again. We want you to join us. Admiral Choi said. Not as subjects. Not as servants. As students. We want to teach you what we learned. How to maintain strength without living in constant conflict. How to practice warfare without actual war. How to turn strategy into culture. He activated another holographic display. It showed plans for educational exchanges, strategy competitions that included all species, and joint training exercises. Every human learns strategy from childhood, G1 explained. We want to share that with you. Not so you can fight us better in the future. So you can understand that strength comes from knowledge and preparation, not from aggression and conquest. You want us to become like you, the Talorn said. No, G1 smiled. We want you to find your own path to the same destination. Peace maintained through preparedness. Strength built through culture, rather than through fear. The treaty terms included several specific requirements. The Concordat would dismantle their offensive weapons platforms. They would allow human observers at their military installations, but they would also receive access to human strategy training, simulation technology, and educational resources. There is one more thing, Admiral Choi said. We are establishing a new academy, the Galactic Strategy Institute. It will be open to all species. We will teach advanced tactical thinking, strategic planning, and military theory. But we will also teach why these skills are best used to prevent conflict, rather than cause it. Zekthor looked at the terms for a long time. Then he looked up at G1. You could have destroyed us. You chose not to. You could have taken everything from us. You chose not to. Instead, you offer us education and partnership. Why? Because we remember what we used to be. G1 said quietly. 3,500 years ago, humanity loved war. We were good at it. We enjoyed it, and it almost destroyed us. We fought you to a standstill back then, yes. But we also learned that victory in war is hollow if it costs you your own soul. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth hanging in space. We made a choice after that war. We decided to keep our skills but change our purpose. We would maintain the ability to fight, but we would dedicate ourselves to making sure we never had to. We built a culture where every person understood strategy, so every person understood the true cost of conflict. When everyone knows how to fight, everyone knows why you should not. Admiral Choi joined her at the window. Today, humanity has billions of master strategists, millions of brilliant tactical minds, countless people who could command fleets or plan campaigns, and none of them want to. They want to compete. They want to test themselves. They want to prove their intelligence, but they do not want actual war. That is what we want to share with you. G1 turned back to the Concordat representatives. The knowledge that true strength is choosing not to use your power. That real victory is preventing the fight, not winning it. Zekthor stood and approached G1. He performed the Vrin gesture of deep respect, something he had never done for another species. "We accept your terms," he said, "all of them, and we ask for one thing more." "What is that?" G1 asked. "Send your best teachers to our worlds. Let them show our young ones what you have shown us. Let us learn from humanity not just how to defend ourselves, but how to build a culture that makes defense unnecessary." G1 smiled. "We would be honored." The treaty was signed that day. The war that lasted 47 days officially ended. But something more important began. A new era, where humanity shared its greatest secret with the galaxy. The secret was not their weapons or their ships or their tactics. The secret was their culture. A civilization that had learned to channel competitive energy and strategic thinking into peaceful purposes while maintaining the ability to defend itself absolutely if needed. 50 years later, a young Vrin cadet named Zeklin stood in the Galactic Strategy Institute on Earth. She was the great-granddaughter of High Commander Zekthor. Around her, students from 20 different species worked together on a simulation exercise. "Commander," a human instructor said to her, "you are leading Blue Team today. Your objective is to defend the station against Red Team's attack. Remember, this is not about winning through force. It is about winning through intelligence." Zeklin nodded. She had grown up watching recordings of her great-grandfather's surrender. She had learned the story of humanity's transformation, and she had dedicated herself to understanding what made humans so successful. As the simulation began, she commanded her mixed-species team with confidence. They faced the attacking Red Team, led by a human student. The battle was fierce. Both sides used creative tactics. Both sides adapted constantly. In the end, Zeklin's Blue Team won by the narrowest margin. "Excellent work," the instructor said. "You used a variation of the spiral defense pattern. Who taught you that?" My great-grandfather," Zeklin said. "He saw Commander Han use it during the war. He spent the rest of his life studying human strategy. He taught me that the greatest victory is understanding your opponent so well that you never have to fight them." The instructor smiled. "Your great-grandfather learned well. And so have you." That evening, Zeklin walked through the academy gardens. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the next generation of strategists was being trained. Humans, Vrin, Talorn, Corvin, and dozens of other species. All learning together. All competing together. All understanding that the purpose of strength was not conquest, but protection. Humanity had restarted their war with the Concordat and won decisively. But their real victory was not in the battles they fought. It was in the culture they shared. A culture that understood war deeply enough to dedicate itself to peace. And across the galaxy, billions of beings now played the same games, ran the same simulations, and practiced the same strategies that humans had perfected over 3,500 years, not preparing for war, preparing to prevent it, because that was what humanity had learned, and what they taught everyone else. The greatest strategic victory is the battle you never have to fight. The war had lasted 47 days. The peace it created would last forever.